In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, looking at back and forth temperatures. Really back and forth is going to be the theme. Also, some severe weather threats, at least 2 or 3 severe weather threats, and 2 or 3 snowfall threats in the north central and northeastern United States. So we're going to be discussing all of these things today. Let's take a look here at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook here from March 4th through March 8th. We do see overall colder temperatures prevailing along the west, but especially the southwest here. Some cooler temperatures around this time frame will be the theme. Also, warmer temperatures here throughout a lot of the central states, half of the eastern states, but the heart of this warmth will be along these Gulf states, as you can see. This is going to be a pretty drastically warm pattern. I, for one, am hoping that this is going to kind of continue. Every time I feel like we have a cold winter, the spring just wants to be cold too. And I'm really hoping we don't have one of those springs that just drags on like basically a continuation of winter. I'm excited to get my garden going. I'm excited for the warm weather at this point. And yeah, I feel like I'm hopeful that at least April is going to be warm. April is hit or miss. March looking like it could be warmer. Hopefully so. Let's take a look at the precipitation, because we can see that most of the nation is in the above average category, and probably over 50% of it is at least in this second shade of green. So pretty far above normal precipitation for a lot of the nation, but especially here along this kind of Ohio Valley, Appalachian Mountain Range area here. And then for the southwest corridor over southern California. When we look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, this will be from the 6th through the 12th of March. We continue to see these colder anomalies over the west. We call this a negative PNA, and this is what's really forcing this warmth into the central states. We can see that the east is expected to be near normal chances though, so it could really swing either way. But with this cold in the west, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of this warmth move into the east as well for a lot of the 6th through 12th time frame also. And meanwhile, we have far above normal precipitation along the west with those colder temperatures. A lot of lows will be moving onshore, diving through this area, even some of them moving in through the southwest here. And kind of a little bit below normal for some of the south central and north central states there. And then we're slightly above normal as far as precipitation is concerned along this eastern seaboard area. The past 20 days, this will be the 6th through the 26th of February. This is how things have looked. We've seen colder temperatures throughout a lot of the eastern and central states. Also a bit of the northwest here as well. But the biggest feature here has been this kind of south-based positive PNA, where we've had warmer temperature anomalies along a lot of North America here. Really, really interesting, but you can tell that this does not extend into Canada or the northwestern states. So it played out more like a neutral PNA, kind of a little bit of both going on here. And this led to some cold moving into a lot of the central states and Midwest especially, and oftentimes this would kind of swing into the east also throughout February. Let's take a look at your European model, and really, I'm going to try and make this quick. You've probably noticed by the time you're watching this video that this is a very late night special. I had a lot of work to get done today, so I was doing some side work, doing a lot of stuff today, just super busy, and I was even debating not making a video, but I really just wanted to do it either way. So here we are. We do see that for the day on Thursday, tomorrow, there is a chance that we will see some snowfall, especially in northern New England here, and especially in the higher elevation areas of those states like upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. We do see that cold air is moving in with this, and likely some thunderstorms in this area, at least heavy showers, but we do have a general thunderstorm risk from the National Weather Service for this area. Definitely not a severe weather outbreak by any means, but definitely a chance of some thunderstorm activity going, because we have this warm air racing up the east here, and your cold front is right about here. So that cold front is swinging into that warm, humid air. That's probably going to be enough to fire up some thunderstorms for the day and evening tomorrow. As we take a look at Friday, we're getting another Clipper system moving down. This is a 989 over the Great Lakes, and we see a lot of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and even a lot of Canada seeing pretty heavy snowfall for Friday, and it's going to be pretty quick moving as well, is probably worth noting. And as we extend into Saturday, March 1st, we do begin to get some snowfall for New York and New England here. especially overnight from the final day of February into March 1st. Definitely be on the lookout for that snowfall. And this does extend into the day. We can see that the rain snow line is going to be something like this underneath that low. So we see interior Pennsylvania, New York getting snowfall, and also northern New Hampshire and most of Maine seeing snowfall as well for the day on Saturday, March 1st. That all moves through, and the day on Sunday, the 2nd of March here is very, very cool in the east. Your overall jet stream looks like this. So we see this deep diving trough. This could be one of our last major Arctic blasts of the cold season, so definitely keep that in mind. We see a large warm up here out west, and this is kind of acting as a positive PNA, but it's certainly not. We see that the west coast is rather cool as well and stormy there, so this definitely isn't a positive PNA, but it's kind of acting like one because we have overall warmth in that western area. It is forcing a lot of the cold into the east, much like a positive PNA would do. Let's go ahead and keep going. I want to take us straight in towards Monday on the 3rd, and we see that a lot of storminess, especially noteworthy, would be the snowfall over the west here, and then we're rather quiet in the east outside of some colder temperatures for a lot of the mid-Atlantic and northeast here. Again, Monday the 3rd. Tuesday the 4th is when things really start to get going. I'll kind of keep us in the morning time here. This is 7 a.m. Eastern time, so it's a little bit earlier, obviously, over the central states, but we see a 994 over Kansas, and we just have this crazy, crazy jet stream creating a lot of shear. It's just blasting into this area, and meanwhile, with that, we have the cold air diving in as well, the cold, dry air, and then we also have this warm, humid air just surging northward throughout this warm pocket. This is already, by the morning time, firing up thunderstorms for areas of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas. I suspect, obviously, later in the evening, afternoon, evening, is when some of the worst thunderstorms will be occurring. So here's 7 p.m. We see this is really blowing up for states like Missouri, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, maybe even Iowa, maybe even southern Wisconsin and Indiana there, getting thunderstorm activity and probably a severe weather event, if not outbreak, occurring here. And with that crazy jet stream, we can't even rule out a tornado outbreak. We're going to show you some stuff at the end of this video from the Storm Prediction Center where they're really, really keying in on this already. I think it's the day 7 outlook. We already have a severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, so definitely worth noting. I want to keep going. Let's see what this is doing by the next day. And this is Wednesday, the 5th of March, and we see a lot of this same energy is now moved eastward. So probably for Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina. I think that pocket especially is going to be the area to watch for Wednesday on March 5th. But we can't even rule out these thunderstorms for Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland, D.C., Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, just because of the nature of this system. There could be thunderstorms all the way up into that mid-Atlantic region as well. You have a very strong low here over Michigan, which is the main factor in this storm even occurring. And we have a lot of snowfall here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan with this very intense low. As we take this towards Thursday, this is Thursday afternoon, 1 p.m., we see that all of these storms have kind of moved offshore. Unless you're in New England, where heavier showers, maybe even a thunderstorm or two, is occurring up there for Thursday on the 6th. But we rapidly have Arctic air moving back in, and this one doesn't look quite as intense as that March 2nd one did, but certainly pretty intense. And I mean, we can even see at 1 p.m. snowfall happening in Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, areas like that. So certainly a very cool pattern. We also have snowfall out west for Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming there for Thursday the 6th. So quite snowy and quite cold around a lot of the nation. Here's Friday. Things get pretty interesting here. We have a low starting up in northern Texas. We do get some showery activity nearby it, but nothing in the way of snowfall yet, and definitely nothing in the way of any major severe weather. It's not until we're overnight Friday into Saturday, and I suspect that this 7th, 8th time frame underneath this low could be a time frame to watch, likely along the Gulf Coast, so southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, northern Florida, and southern Georgia would be an area to really watch. Because this low is so far south, it kind of limits the area seeing the majority of that energy to this kind of slim area nearby that Gulf Coast, like I mentioned. But certainly with this being about 10 days out, this low could actually be up here, and that would kind of actually expand the area where we're watching for the thunderstorms and potential severe weather. Could even go even further north, and then we'd really be looking at a widespread event. It really, really depends. So let's keep going. It's just a date to watch, kind of. And also, I mean, this is a 990 off of the Outer Banks, and we're starting to get snowfall here for parts of the Appalachian Mountain Range and even up into like eastern PA, northern New Jersey, New York City area, because we rapidly have this Arctic air moving in as well as that low is offshore. So this does have some snowfall potential with it as well. As we move towards the overnight, the problem is that it moves towards the Outer Banks and then it starts to curve offshore. So if this was just a little bit more, hanging around that East Coast area, we would really see something more major here for the Northeast areas, especially New England. But we're not getting that on this model resolution. This is a 975 millibar low pressure center, which is extremely strong. So it definitely has a lot of potential. The cold is right there and it's very intense. So the puzzle pieces are here. The main problem is it's 10 days out. That is within the range, I would say, where it is a legitimate threat to watch, but it's far enough out to where it's really just something to kind of eyeball and pay attention to and see how things transpire. Obviously, in this winter, we've seen things that are 4 or 5 days out trend considerably to the south or north. So you got to imagine, I mean, 10 days, there is a lot of wiggle room here. But if it does wiggle to the north and the cold stays around, watch out, because this does have some pretty good potential. As we move towards Sunday afternoon, I mean, there's some cold in the east, but we're rather quiet around the nation here. Monday on March 10th, same thing. We get a little bit of snowfall there in the northeast. We start to get a storm system moving on shore to the west, but we're really just looking for trends at this range, and not a lot happens for those final few days of the model run. I'd say the biggest thing to pay attention to is more cold and snow for the northwest, which is likely would surge some warmth into the central and eastern states again, which we actually do see happening here. 978 millibar low pressure center there in eastern Canada with a dragging cold front. Could even be one of our further north thunderstorm threats so far for states like West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, the Northeast, if we did see something happen like this. So definitely pay attention. And we get another kind of building low for the Central Plains, and this is pretty similar to our one coming up in early March. So definitely going to be watching this very, very, very closely. If this becomes the trend and we get multiple systems like this, then there's a chance that through mid-March we could have multiple severe weather outbreaks of varying intensity, but definitely concerning, considering early March is early severe weather season, to say the least. Early March is, for, obviously very, very similar to February. And February isn't very known for being a super big severe weather month, but late March is when you're trickling into the more April-like pattern, which is when we're building in the intensity of that severe weather. Severe weather peaks in April, May. So the closer we get to that, the more intense it should be, but this is incredibly active, I should say. We're going to skip the GFS model today. I already looked at it. It's a little bit colder than the European model here. We get a little bit less storminess. It's just so late. I don't want this video to come out after 12 because I want to keep my daily streak alive. We'll come back with it tomorrow for sure. Here's the total precipitation, and we do see plenty of precipitation along the west, but still a little less than we've been seeing the models output over the last few days. And for the east, I would say probably increasing the precipitation here. But we see those like blues and yellows kind of mixed in. We'll have below average precipitation in a lot of areas and above average in the areas that I'm doing like arrows here. So we can see it's very, very hit or miss. The big thing is most everybody is getting a decent amount of precipitation here coming up. Here's the anomalies. And like I said, I mean, we get above, below, below, above, above, below, above. So it's all over the place. And then the west is a little lackluster unless you're in the southwest here, where we actually end up with some above average precipitation. It's kind of funny to me that both of the outlooks from the National Weather Service show above normal precipitation, both the 6 to 10 and the 8 to 14 day outlooks. And then here's what we're getting from the European model, where it's like almost exactly the opposite. I would say 75% of the nation at least in below normal precipitation. So pretty interesting. Total snowfall on the European model. Let's move into it. And we do see a really good amount out west for the mountainous west. Near the Great Lakes and Northeast here, we're getting a good amount. And then also for parts of the Mid-Atlantic, getting decent amounts. But this is just nothing compared to what I know you guys are hoping for. But there is snow chances in here. And I think the more important fact is that there's snow chances in here that don't pan out, but very easily could. So I could see the case for this actually being underdone for sure if we cash in on any sort of significant snow system in these areas. GFS model, we're going to show the snowfall, but out west does phenomenal. And then again, throughout these areas, very, very similar look. Here's the temperatures according to the European model. And I mean, we're warm here for a few days. Here comes that kind of first, second major Arctic blast. And this is a big one. The greens 10 to 15 degrees below normal. The kind of purplish blues up there in the northeast is going to be 15 to 25 degrees below normal. So this is a hefty cool down. And right away, I mean, we see here for the third, fourth, cold building out west, this negative PNA. Instantly, warmth is building for the central and eastern states. We are in a highly PNA-driven pattern. And I think it's one of the more underappreciated teleconnections. As long as I've been just paying attention to it on the, when we're looking at these models, I'm always watching the PNA. It always seems to reflect what happens downstream to the east of it. It is so critical, so crucial, and so underutilized in my opinion. But watch this. We see this just warm air building for the east as that cold air is setting up in the west. And we see the exact opposite here. I mean, there's warmth in the west, cold in the east, and watch it. The west is directly impacting what's happening east of it. Just watch. I'll play the days here. The west starts to cool. The east starts to warm. There's no denying that is a direct effect. We see the warmth start to build in the west right here, starting on March 7th. What happens in the east? Major cool down. The second that warmth is building in the west, it just shoves that cold air into the east. And then we start to cool in the west. What happens? We start to warm up in the east right away here. There is no denying this is just what's happening in the PNA is directly affecting everything else around the nation. It's so critical to pay attention to. One thing I did want to show you guys before we close out is that day 7, so Tuesday, March 4th into the morning of the 5th and overnight and everything. We do have this area here, which is a 15% chance of severe weather. It roughly translates to a slight risk with the categorical risks. This is 7 days out, so typically they start out with smaller percentages, and honestly, they typically don't do the, day 6, 7, 8 outlooks. I'll see a lot of time they'll pop things up on the day 5 or 4, if at all. Sometimes there's a major event and they don't show it until we're within that kind of 3-day range where we're getting the actual outlooks. So very interesting, very long range outlook. Wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being at least an enhanced risk, if not moderate risk. We'll see what happens with it, but this has significant severe weather written all over it. Definitely a storm to watch. The 4th into the 5th. We'll be tracking it closely. So be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.